Okay, so if you're a creative person, you have definitely felt the ground shifting under your feet lately. This whole debate about AI and creative work, it's everywhere, right? And it's not just some academic thing, it's really emotional. So let's just dive in and see if we can find a better way to look at all this. So, what's at the core of all this? It really boils down to the real art debate. You know the one. It's this passionate, sometimes even painful argument about what really counts as legitimate creative work. And look, for anyone who's poured their heart and soul into a craft, this is not just some abstract idea. It's deeply personal. Yeah, AI art isn't art. We've all heard that one, right? And it's so important to understand that this statement, it usually comes from a place of love, a deep love for the craft. It's a defense of the long hours, the muscle memory, all those tiny, invisible decisions you make when you're creating something with your own two hands. It's really a defense of craftsmanship itself. Okay, but what if we're all getting stuck asking the wrong question? What if this simple yes or no, is it art or not, just isn't the most helpful way to look at it? Maybe, just maybe, instead of drawing these lines in the sand, we can reframe the whole problem. All right, let's try on a new framework for a second. What if we look at any creative work through two different lenses? On one hand, you've got the joy you get from the process itself, and on the other, you have the need to get to a specific outcome. Now, these two things, they get tangled up all the time, but separating them out is the key. Okay, so first up, let's talk about being process-oriented. This is when the real value, the good stuff, is in the act of doing it. You know that feeling, the feel of a brush on a canvas or your hands actually shaping clay on a wheel. Even just the rhythm of your fingers on a keyboard when you're in the zone. The reward is the making. And then, you've got the other side of the coin, being outcome-oriented. Here, the main value isn't so much in the journey, it's all about the destination. The goal is that finished product. It's the piece of software that actually works, the memo that's crystal clear to everyone, or, just getting that draft delivered by noon like you promised. So here's the big takeaway, right? Process joy, the value is in the making. Outcome need, the value is in the results. That's it. And honestly, just knowing which game you're playing at any given moment, that might be the secret to navigating this whole new world without losing your mind. So, where does AI fit into all this? Well, this framework actually gives us a really interesting way to think about it. It doesn't erase the artist. It creates a new role for the artist. Instead of wiping out artistry, it just relocates it. It shifts the focus away from pure execution to something that looks a lot more like being a director. Yeah, exactly. The craft doesn't just vanish into thin air. It just moves. It shifts from being all about the manual, hands-on execution and more toward the vision, the intent, the choices you make to guide this incredibly powerful new tool. And what this does is it kind of redefines what authorship even means in our time. It becomes less about, okay, who physically pushed the pixels around, and more about who defined the vision, who curated the ideas, who made those critical judgment calls that led to the thing you're looking at. And don't get it twisted, this director role, it requires a deep, deep set of skills. It's a whole new kind of craftsmanship. It's the craft of setting intent, of shaping prompts with nuance, of curating the right references, and then just iterating over and over and over, applying your own unique taste. That is absolutely still a craft. Okay, so that's the big idea, the theory. But how does this actually help us in our day-to-day work? Well, this framework gives us two really clear modes we can operate in. Think of them as two lanes. In one lane, you have studio mode. This is your sacred space for process joy. Here, you protect the process at all costs. You might even intentionally choose slower tools because that inefficiency is where the magic happens. It's where you learn, explore, and really refine your taste. And then, in the other lane, you've got shipping mode. This is all about your outcome needs. The goal here is the result, period. So you use the fastest, most efficient path to get there. Right, so when a new project lands on your desk, how do you choose? Which lane are you in? How do you make that decision consciously instead of just, defaulting to one or the other or just reacting emotionally? Well, here's a simple little checklist that might help you decide. 4 quick questions. First, what's the real outcome I need here? Second, let's be honest with myself. How much of my motivation is about the joy of the process? Third, what's the actual cost of going slow on this? And fourth, if I do use AI, how am I going to maintain my own standards and be transparent about it? When you take a step back and zoom out a little, you realize this is not the first time a new tool has come along and completely challenged our definition of craft. Not by a long shot. In finding a little bit of historical perspective can be super grounding when things are changing this fast. I mean, history is just littered with examples of this. Think about it. A lot of traditional makers, when digital fabrication tools first came out, they totally dismissed them. That's not real making. But what happened? Eventually, those so-called shortcuts revealed entirely new kinds of craftsmanship and unlocked creative possibilities nobody had ever even dreamed of. And that really brings us to the heart of it, doesn't it? The core idea here. Art isn't made less just because a tool helped create it. It's only made less when the human stuff, the vision, the judgment, the care, when that goes missing from the process. So, I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Is art really diminished by a new tool? Or is it only diminished when the vision goes missing, when the human at the center of it all isn't there anymore? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.